This is Money Talk Radio, and I'm Ellis Martin. Join me now for a conversation with Ken Konkin, the president and CEO of Tudor Gold. Tudor Gold trades on the TSX Venture Exchange as TUD, and in the U.S. on the OTC as TDRRF. The company's Goldstorm project in British Columbia, Canada's Golden Triangle, represents one of the largest gold discoveries in the past 30 years. Tudor has identified a staggering mineral resource of 27.9 million ounces of gold equivalent, 2.87 billion pounds of copper, and 128 million ounces of silver. The 17,918 hectare Treaty Creek property, in which Tudor Gold holds a 60% interest, borders the KSM property to the southwest and the Brucejack mine to the south. The past producing Eskay Creek mine lies 12 kilometers to the west. Mr. Konkin has over 35 years of geological experience throughout North and South America, as well as Russia. Ken Konkin worked for Silver Standard for 19 years and managed advanced exploration programs in Argentina, Peru, as well as the Golden Triangle in British Columbia, Canada. Ken, welcome back to the program. Great to visit with you today.
Good to see you, my friend.
What's happening at Treaty Creek? You have applied for permitting for underground exploration. What does that entail?
This is about as advanced exploration as you could possibly get. We're right at the upper tier of that. There's been a couple of pivotal game-changing moments in the company's history. The first one was when we tapped a copper-bearing domain called CSX-V. Turned into be a huge windfall for us. The second one is the theory or the hypothesis that we had high-grade systems lurking at mid-level on the deposit. We couldn't explain. So the premise of the 2024 drill program was a wolf disguised in sheep's clothing, that we were going to go out and expand out the best numbers of the resource. But what I was really hunting for was to prove if I was right or wrong on the supercells, which is a high-grade domain we chatted about last time we saw you. But that is exactly what we hit. And I had to rename them all because the one we were hunting for, we just called it Supercell 1. But now we had to go 1A, B, C, and D. There are 4 of them. We hit 4 high-grade structures of sizable proportion that is comparable to Brucejack Lake's Valley of the Kings, going back to my history. So what we realized that by filling from surface, it was going to take us 2 or 3 years. It's way too long to get down that far. And one of our best advisors, Ken McNaughton, past vice president of Pretium, he said, Ken, go have a look at underground. I'll bet you it's cheaper to drive a ram and drill it right face to face. Go walk up to these supercells and blast it right in his front. And it gives us a huge amount of advantages. One, saves us tens of millions of dollars. The ramp itself is probably only going to cost, just the aspect is something around 12 to 15 million bucks, which was what we spent on, say, 10 holes. Say you have to drill 100 holes. You're way ahead by being down at the face of these supercells, these micro breccias, because then you're building development, you're building your infrastructure for extraction. You're way ahead of the curve. You go year round on drilling. You don't have to use a helicopter support. You're not limited to 4 months. You can go year round on the drilling aspect of it, and you can have it out probably 3 times quicker in advancing the final exploration, because as my colleagues put it, Ken, this supercell is a game changer. If you can find a 1,500 to 2,000 ton a day producer for 5 to 7 years of high grade, this is a CapEx killer that really launches this thing into orbit. This thing really will take off with the catalyst of a high grade. And the reality is, say I'm wrong and it's not going to be there, at least you've developed all of your preliminary infrastructure to get down there to extract your 10,000 ton test. Why would you give it by drilling 1.5 kilometers away of pure host rock and get nothing for it? This is an absolute brilliant yes or yes, no doubt about it. Hands down, great move on our part.
That was going to be my next question is, are you going to be able to turn this infrastructure into a mine? And you just answered that question.
That's the point that our engineering group, we always now, before we do anything, we talk to our engineers and we back engineer, we reverse engineer everything, including the exploration program, because I said, given the fact that we've got these really wide space holes, say over a dozen really good screaming holes into these supercells, these micro breccias with nice visible gold in it. First thing we did is we went collected material for metallurgical testing. The next thing I said was, what would this hole spacing have to be to hit drill indicated category or classification of drill indicated? So they did the research on it. They came back and they said, Ken, you're going to have to drill this on 50-meter centers. So if you have a 50-meter straight box, 50 meters across, 50 meters down, a straight square, but one in the center, there you go. That makes you about 35-meter separation on all holes. That is it. That's your pattern you're hunting for. Then you can go drill indicated. So they dictated to me my absolute template of what I needed to drill. So going after the core of the highest grades, we've had Roth Capital came up with a simulation. They figure we're running something like 11 grams of 3 million ounces already just on Supercell 1C, just on one of them. So Mike Nieheiser put that out. I read it and I thought, I don't know what it's going to be because I deal on tighter hole spacings, but as a geological target, he's not far off on that target. I use a 10-meter, 10-gram target is what I use. So let's go forward and see what we come up with on this venture of putting down the ramp. And yes, same engineers told us this ramp will have to exist for developing your ventilation. This is exactly where you would put your ramp anyways, because you have to go up to the CS600 and create the ventilation to create your block cave. So it is something that you will repurpose after you've used it for drilling, and you will use it to do two things. One, for ventilation on the block cave, and two, if you choose to take a bulk tonnage sample, you're right there. So when you go to feasibility, you've got to have metallurgy. You've got the infrastructure pre-built or the start of what happens on your final countdown to producing on a block cave scenario. So it was a win-win scenario. There was no negatives on this one, none.
So eventually this could self-fund itself.
This is the thing is, moreover, when you look at before, when we're looking at a very large mine, like a 30, 40-year-old mine life on a very large underground operation from a block cave point of view, and let's not throw away the 300 horizon. You can start a small starter pit on that and go after 3 million ounces of gold on that if you wanted to, or 1 million ounces, whatever you chose was your highest grade you wanted to get, just to start the thing off. What it did is it now brings in what we're looking at in the past previously was specifically only the top maybe 20 producers in the world that could do a big, larger CapEx project. Now, with a 1,500 ton a day, 2,000 ton a day, remember, Bruce Jack, we began at 2,200 ton a day at Bruce Jack. People said, oh, you couldn't build it. You can't make it. You look at it, surrounded by glaciers. The access is horrible. You couldn't do it. Couldn't make it hang together. It doesn't stick. All wrong. So my point is, now, anybody that's worth $4 billion in the market cap sector, which means probably 100 companies, can now look at us because they can make that decision on the 1,500 ton a day, $2 billion CapEx feature. So you spend maybe a quarter of your company to go after this thing, and you become a producer of 200,000, 220,000 ounces a year, kill the CapEx, pull the trigger on the final mine, or sell it to a bigger company in 5 to 7 years. That is the concept. That is precisely what now is very attractive to a lot of producers that are out there trying to become a 500,000 ounce producer, million ounce producers. Very few million ounce producers, but definitely a lot of 500,000 ounce producers that want to expand the production. So this is a perfect project where it's a mine within a mine. This is the catalyst that lights the match for the big one to go off. So this is what I think is one of the most intriguing parts of Trinity Creek, because no other project is like it. If you imagine my history at Snowfields, where Snowfields for me was a great event where we drilled off a 20, 30, 40 million ounces, then we had to move 6 kilometers to the south to find Valley of the Kings. In this case, Valley of the Kings is shipping on top of potentially our Goldstorm, our CS600. That's impressive, where you have it in the same space, where the infrastructure lines up beautifully. You really are looking at the geological tumblers locking into place to uncover, or the combination for the economic success of Trinity. This is it. Go forward with it.
One last thought here, one last question, Ken. Do you think we're at the end of this bear market with regard to the equities?
You know something? I hope so. I think with the change of government in the US, I think with the hopeful change of government we've got coming in Canada, we need hope. And if you have hope, you have everything. And this is the worst mistake that people make. They wait to get in. You need to look at markets. When they're depressed, this is when you strike. You load up. Don't come and say, damn, I should have gotten in when you were at 62 cents, 65 cents, or 40 cents US, whatever you are in the US markets. I should have got in because you're trading at $4. It was a 10 bagger. Shouldn't own it. Don't say that to me, because this is the time. I'm telling you, the listeners, you need to know, get in at a low level. These markets are prime for this, for quality projects like Treaty Creek. So that's the biggest mistake people make in the investment market. Stick, stay, make it pay. So let's just see where this trip takes us. And I hope that this is the bottom, but I do believe we need disposable income, and that comes by change of government with hope, with a very pro-business approach. And this is where we're heading. So I think we're there. This is it.
Ken, I've always liked your passion since I first met you. Thank you so much for joining me today on the program. It's been a real treat. Let's not wait too long to speak again.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon.
I've been speaking with Ken Konkin, the president and CEO of Tudor Gold. Tudor Gold trades on the TSX Venture Exchange as TUD, and in the U.S. on the OTC as TDRRF. The company's website is tudor-gold.com. I'm Ellis Martin, and this is Money Talk Radio.